Creating dimensions one at a time is okay, but what if we want to create a string of dimensions? In this lesson, we're going to learn how to use the continuous and baseline dimensioning tools. On my screen, I've got a mechanical part, and I'd like to add some dimensions to this drawing. Now, I've already created a layer for these, and I'd like to start out by creating a linear dimension from the endpoint here to the endpoint here. And I'll pull this out, and I'll place it right there. Now, this is a nice overall dimension, but what if I'd like to create a dimension string to label the location of all of these other points? Well, I could do that manually, but instead, I'm going to use a dimensioning tool that will do most of the work for me. And I'm afraid the tool we're looking for is not in this menu. This is actually a limited set of dimensioning tools. Instead, I'm going to click on the Annotate tab, where I can get access to all of the tools associated with dimensioning. The one I'm looking for is right here. This guy will let us create a continuous dimension string. Here's the trick. I have to create the first dimension manually. So I'm going to create a linear dimension. Notice we have the same flyout here as we have on the Home tab. And I'll create my dimension from the endpoint here to the endpoint here, and I'll pull this out and place it. Now I'll move up and click the continuous icon, and notice that AutoCAD picks up right where I left off, allowing me to dimension all of these other points, and it places the dimensions automatically. When I'm finished, I'll press the Escape key. Now, this is nice, but what if I'd like to create a series of dimensions to a common baseline? Well, I can do that also. Once again, I'll start by creating a dimension. I'll click Linear, and I'll create my dimension from the endpoint here to the endpoint here, and I'll pull this one down this time. Next, I'll come back to the same place, and I'll click this flyout, and I'll select Baseline. And as you can see, AutoCAD picks up where I left off, and I can dimension all of these other locations, except this time all of the measurements are going back to the original baseline location. So in the event we need a series of dimensions, it's nice to know that we don't have to create them one by one. Whether they be a continuous string or baseline dimensions, AutoCAD is a tool to create them automatically.